Hidden behind the noise and lights of Tokyo lies an impressive tea culture. Many of the people that walk these bustling streets have replaced green tea with coffee, but if you look hard enough, you can find oases of premium loose-leaf green tea. We're going to visit a few different tea shops in the area and get a hands-on experience with some of the most popular types of tea in Japan. Back in the early 18th century, when Tokyo was still known as Edo, a new type of tea began to take the city by storm. It was brought over here by Nagatani Soen, a farmer and tea merchant from Ujitowara. He met with a local tea merchant from Nihonbashi named Yamamoto Kahei, who put his new invention on the map. At the time, most tea was ground and mixed into water, but this new type of tea was steamed and rolled to lock in the flavor. The leaves could then be infused into water to release their flavor in a smooth and fragrant tea. This tea became known as Sencha, and it soon overtook matcha as the most popular type of tea in Japan, all because its initial success in the markets of what is now Tokyo. With more than 38 million people, Greater Tokyo is now the largest metropolitan area in the world. In fact, it's so large that it has to be split up into 23 different wards, all of which can be easily navigated from the excellent subway system. To start off our tea journey, we're going to Minato to visit our favorite tea shop in all of Tokyo. This is Sakurai, a tea house that does a great job of blending the modern and traditional elements of Japanese green tea. First, you get to pick out the types of teas you would like to try from a list of options, and then the tea master prepares them in front of you. To begin the tasting today, we will start off with Gyokuro, a very unique tea that expresses the typical savory or umami flavors that Japanese teas have become famous for. This tea has to be brewed a very particular way, with a small amount of water at a very low temperature. Because this tea shop uses a traditional iron pot to heat up their tea water, she will need to use a special technique to cool the water down. When you pour boiling water into a ceramic cup without preheating it, it will bring the temperature down quite quickly. If you then transfer that water into another cup, it will bring the temperature down even further. The tea master repeats this 4 times to bring the water temperature down from 100 degrees Celsius to 60 degrees Celsius. She says that each time you transfer the water, it lowers the temperature by 10 degrees Celsius. This is definitely a helpful trick to keep in mind, especially when you're preparing Japanese green teas, as they are extremely sensitive to temperature. Once she has the right temperature and the leaves are measured out into a shibori dashi, or flat teapot, she will drizzle about 50 milliliters of water on top of the leaves and let them brew for 2 minutes. By using a tiny amount of water like this, she is able to concentrate the gyokuro, giving the tea a thicker texture and a more powerful taste. The end result is a tiny serving of some of the best green tea you will ever have. After the hot tea was finished, the tea master began to prepare a cold brewed tea from the leaves. She takes out a block of ice and begins to break it up with an ice pick. She then puts the crushed ice into a pitcher, adds in a pickled cherry blossom leaf, and then pours out some of the tea. After mixing this all up, it's ready to be poured into a glass to create the perfect cold brewed tea. While we normally think of tea as a hot beverage, it can work great when prepared cold. The flavor of cold brew tea can even become smoother and sweeter than hot tea. This is because the bitter components in the tea, the catechins, are extracted at hotter temperatures. When you brew the tea too hot or for too long, you will begin to extract some of these catechins, and they will soon begin to bring more bitterness to your tea. A well-made cold brew tea like this one can make for a smooth and refreshing beverage, particularly on a warm day.
From Fukuoka, 強い光 is bitter and little green tea umami. From Kyoto, Yabukita, fresh and little sweet.
The next course of the tasting is Hojicha. The tea master lays out 6 different types of teas to choose from and then roasts one of them by hand in a special type of pan. As the leaves are roasted, the flavor is changed completely. It trades these fresher notes of steamed vegetables and citrusy fruit for warmer notes of coffee and chocolate.
Try the lightly roasted. You have a lot of cereally note, bitterness also coming. It's very interesting. So you have some kind of bitterness, but it's a very light. There's only a small kind of flavor of this roasted flavor, of this earthy flavor as well. So it stays very light. Now let's go for the darker roasted or medium roast. Strong in smokiness, so really strong in smokiness. There's a cereally and I have chocolate flavor. So this one, my favorite.
Although Hojicha has a very dark color, it is still considered to be a type of green tea. Almost all tea produced in Japan is green tea, but there are some great Japanese oolong and black teas out there, and we will be getting a chance to try one of these next. Black teas are made from fully oxidized tea leaves, which gives them a flavor quite different than green tea.
So this is black tea. Very smooth. What I realized a little bit about the Japanese is there's a strong caramel note always with the black tea from Japan. You know, my knowledge about black tea is very small, but often when you have like a black tea from other regions, there's much more sweetness into it. Here you often have this typical caramel note coming from the black tea. So this is what from my vast experience of Japanese black tea, I realized that they often have a nice note of caramel, but not too much sweetness otherwise to the tea.
Before we get to our final course, we are served a variety of seasonal food pairings to go with our tea. Because it's springtime in Japan, of course the food pairings revolve around sakura, or cherry blossom. These sweets help to smooth out some of the bitterness of the tea and also bring out certain flavor characteristics.
Dates with walnut and butter. Amazing. I love it.
Finally, we come to the much anticipated matcha course. This is a powdered green tea, so instead of using a teapot, the tea master will actually use a bowl and a whisk made out of a single piece of bamboo. The tea whisk is carefully carved so that the small bristles can move through the water quickly and aerate the tea. With the right technique, this will create a nice foam on top of the matcha and give it a smoother taste and texture.
Fresh cut grass, like just when you cut it and you walk the first time over the grass, it smells exactly like this. It's a very light, very light matcha. There's a little bit of astringency to it, but it's a light one, so it's not a lot of sweetness developing. So I expected it to be a little bit stronger, but it is a light one, so it's more fresher, like a summer matcha, you might say.
To expand our palate for Japanese green tea, we want to try as many different types of tea as possible here in Tokyo. We heard there was a great tea shop called Higashiya that serves a wide variety of different tea types. So we hopped on the train and headed off to Ginza, home of some of Japan's most high-end shopping streets. Right in the heart of Ginza is another tea shop that still serves tea the traditional way. This tea master is using a gaiwan, or lidded bowl. This is more commonly used for Chinese teas, while the Kyushu teapot is used for Japanese green teas. The benefit of this teapot is that the hollow side handle helps to keep your hands from getting burned, and they allow for more refined movements when pouring the tea. Rather than tasting teas in courses, this tea shop actually allows you to pick individual teas from a wide range of options. When you lay out all the tea leaves together like this, you really get a sense of just how many different types of teas are out there. Of course, the flavors are all different, but the leaves themselves look different as well. You may notice that some of the leaves contain stems in addition to the leaves. These are known as stem teas, and they are made with a combination of both the stems and the leaves of the tea plant. The most common types are kukicha, a standard stem tea, and karigane, a stem tea made from shaded tea plants.
That's completely different to the one yesterday, yeah? So this tea here has a really sweet, strong floral note. That's what he said us when he served the tea. It's really that's the most sweet tea they have. What's interesting in comparison, for example, to Gyokuro, where you have a lot of this savory note, here you have a light, small, fine astringency, so a delicate astringency, you might say, which is developing a little bit in the mouth, but it's so strong in the floral note, which is quite impressive. So floral note is definitely the predominant note of this tea, and a lot of kind of sweetness, but no sugary sweetness, so like this fruity sweetness is in this tea very strong.
After exploring a few tea shops that prepare tea the traditional way, we wanted to see how modern Tokyo tea lovers like to drink their tea. For this, we headed west to Setagaya to check out the world's first drip green tea cafe. This method may be familiar to fans of premium coffee, as it uses a pour-over method. The tea leaves are placed into this ceramic cone, which is tapered off towards the bottom, and then it's stopped by this wooden stopper. After pouring the water and waiting a few seconds, the tea master pulls this cone up and the tea begins to flow into the cup below. Because the leaves are in contact with the water for only a short amount of time, the extraction is lighter and sweeter, and the tea pairs beautifully with this daifuku, a sweet made from rice dough filled with anko or sweet azuki bean paste. The tea master infuses the leaves 3 times to fully extract the flavor. In general, Japanese green tea leaves can be brewed 3 times or more, and each infusion is different. The first infusion tends to be the sweetest and most complex in flavor, while the second one develops more of these strong steamed vegetable notes. By the third infusion, the tea still provides a lot of good flavors, but the intensity becomes much milder. To improve the flavor, the tea master actually adds toasted rice to the tea leaves before infusing it a third time. Tea leaves and toasted rice is actually a very popular type of blended tea called genmaicha, or toasted rice tea. This started out as a way to conserve tea leaves during times of famine, but it has actually become a well-appreciated green tea in its own right. To see modern tea culture at its finest, we would need to head to Shibuya, home of the busiest crosswalk in the world. At this famous crosswalk, up to 3,000 people can cross at a single light, and as many as 500,000 can cross in a given day. Just a few streets away from this busy foot traffic lies an oasis called Gengen-an, a modern tea shop that combines great tea with music. This is a perfect place to hang out with friends, listen to music, and drink a nice cup of Hojicha. In much of Tokyo, tea takes on a social connotation. The modern tea drinker may not have time to sit down to a 2-hour-long tea session in the middle of the day, but many make the time to enjoy a cup of tea with a friend, or enjoy a masterfully prepared bowl of matcha with a good meal at places like Chachanoma and Omotesando. When people are really in a hurry, they stop for tea at one of Tokyo's many vending machines, positioned at nearly every corner of the city. With one vending machine for every 23 residents, it's estimated that in Tokyo, you'll only need to walk on average 12 meters to reach one. These vending machines are outfitted with heating and cooling units, providing hot drinks in the winter and cold drinks in the summer. Although these bottled teas are not the ideal way to drink green tea, they have been known to outsell sugary soft drinks and coffee, which is pretty impressive for an unsweetened drink. Finally, on our Tokyo tea journey, we head to one of the largest tourist attractions, Sensoji Temple. The path leading up to the temple is filled with different shops that cater mostly to tourists looking to sample all sorts of Japanese desserts. One of the most popular flavors for desserts here is green tea, including green tea candy and green tea ice cream. These desserts are not made from premium matcha, but actually from a lower grade matcha powder called culinary grade matcha. The premium matcha used for tea ceremonies is carefully produced so it develops a natural sweetness to it. This allows it to be smooth enough to drink plain. When you're adding cream and sugar to the powder like you would if you were making a matcha ice cream, for example, the matcha powder doesn't need to be that sweet. This allows producers to skip a few steps in the production process and produce a slightly lower quality matcha powder. Because the tea is powdered, it can be added to just about any food to give it a green tea flavor. Throughout our time in Tokyo, the most important thing we learned is that everyone, no matter how busy they are, can find time for tea. Whether it's a 2-hour-long tea session or a quick bottled tea on the way to work, tea is an important part of daily life here. It's good to know that despite rapid changes in consumer behavior, tea is still here to stay. If you're interested in trying any of the teas we found throughout our travels in Japan, we would really appreciate it if you visited neoteas.com and helped to support our mission to bring premium Japanese green tea to people all around the world.